Hey, it's James Tiernan with Tiernan Group at Keller Williams North Shore West, and I've got a great treat. A good friend of mine from Ohio's here, Kate. We're going to talk all about what's going on with Ohio and why people are moving to her area just south of Akron. Hey, Kate, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, James. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Kate and where you are.
Okay, yeah. So I am from the Northeast Ohio area, which from Chicago is probably about 6 to 8 hours, I think, the last time I made the trip there.
Yeah, it's about 6 hours because
Okay.
I've driven to Cleveland for you're just a little bit south of Cleveland. I've
Yeah.
driven there for a baseball game, only to get turned around because it was opening day and it was snowing.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it sounds like Ohio. Sounds like Ohio, probably Chicago sometimes too. They probably have similar weather. Yeah. So obviously Ohio, Northeast Ohio, all the buzz right now is about East Palestine, Ohio, but
Yeah, now how far is that from you?
about 40 miles. So like almost an hour, not quite an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is everything where you are safe and relative to what's going on there? You know, you have drinking water's okay, that type of stuff. Air quality is okay.
I mean, based off the $15 Amazon test kit I got, my drinking water's safe. But no, actually, it's interesting you brought that up because one of the counties that I border is affected by that. And there's been a lot of testing and stuff with that county before they pass the sale of the home. So there's been a lot of stuff implemented there. But I don't do too much business out that way. That might change if people start selling there. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, in order for that to work, somebody has to want to move there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I'm about 40 miles west of that. So I'm really in the Akron, Canton area, which is known for like the Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. Well, that's much better.
Yeah, Pro Football Hall of Fame. A lot more happening out this way than East Palestine.
Yeah. Well, that's better to talk about the Pro Football Hall of Fame than that.
Yeah. So where our office is located is about 20 to 30 minutes from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's one of the bigger markets that I operate in is the Canton market. Our office is in a very small town. So there's a lot of great things about the Northeast Ohio area, Akron, Canton especially. So like I said, I'm from kind of a rural area with a low cost of living, but the Hall of Fame is only 30 minutes from me. So, you know, you can get a quick jump on the freeway and get to lots of like shopping, dining, entertainment, stuff like that, but also kind of live in like a rural setting if that's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah. Now, what does that mean to you when you talk about rural setting?
Yeah. So we are a small family company in a small town. So the median price here, and you can get like probably about a half acre to an acre with a ranch home or a 2-story home, maybe 15 to 2,000 square feet. You could probably get that for around 200,000, the area that I'm in.
Yeah, that sounds pretty economical.
Yeah.
We'll say that's cheap.
Yeah. Right. Taxes are cheap too. Property taxes.
Oh, what are you paying for property tax on that $200,000 home?
A $200,000 home in the Alliance area, which is where our office is located, you're probably around $1,500 a year for property taxes.
$1,500 a year.
Yeah.
Do you hear that, everybody? In Ohio, taxes are about 1/10 of what we're paying.
Really?
Well, in some places they're over 10,000.
Wow.
But they're anywhere from 10,000 to 7,000. And if you're on a lake, you're probably starting at 13 or more.
Wow, no way. Yeah. That's crazy.
So, we have some lakes here, some smaller lakes, recreation lakes. Everybody likes to pontoon boat. Mm-hmm. But those folks that are lucky enough to be on the lake, they're paying a lot of taxes.
Not to mention like the HOA fees, I'm sure, on top of all of that too.
There are some neighborhoods that have HOAs. They're not, most of the stuff on lakes is older neighborhoods built from like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
A lot of homes have been updated, of course, along the way, but those neighborhoods existed before HOAs.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Yeah.
So,
So, and you'll find that I think more here. There and the HOA fees are nothing crazy. I mean, I guess depending on what your version of crazy is, but if you're in a neighborhood with like a lake setting, lakefront, you might have an HOA fee of maybe $200 to $300 a month for something like that. So,
okay.
you have lower taxes, but HOA fee, maybe you'll end up being about the same. I'm not sure. We're probably still lower.
No, you definitely are lower. Yeah. And of course the cost to live there is a little bit less expensive as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as far as like any job markets here, there was just like a big Amazon plant that they started building, and I think they're about finished with.
Okay.
In our area, we're like kind of a big blue collar industry out in Alliance.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of like manufacturing and stuff like that. There's a big trucking company out there. And then once you get closer to Canton, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. Timken Steel is a big one in Canton. The Hall of Fame obviously has kind of a bigger job market as well. So those are kind of the top ones out there.
Okay, and I'm sure the tourist industry is pretty strong in Canton.
It's like getting there. I mean, it hasn't been, the Hall of Fame, it's funny because when you live in an area where that's located, you never go see it, like you're like,
Well, but I mean, they have the hotels to support,
yeah,
annual events and stuff.
it's actually funny that you say that because they're starting to like really ramp that up. So it's not really been a location that's been like a really bustling place, but home values right around the Hall of Fame are really starting to jump because they're revamping that whole village. So they're trying to make it a retirement village for Hall of Famers, which none of them want to retire in Ohio. I'm not sure if they figured that out yet. But they are creating a lot of more like dining and entertainment and live music venues and things like that to experience, which is making it kind of a cool place.
Yeah, that's nice to complement, the draw from the Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the Hall of Fame has bought up a lot of properties around here too. So, it's a good place to buy now to where that value might shoot up here in a couple years if the Hall of Fame needs to expand that at all. So yeah, we've got a very low price market for somebody that's an investor looking to maybe start out and get something inexpensive. You could find a multifamily home for under 100,000 here.
A multifamily home for under 1,000?
100,000.
Under 100,000, yeah, under 100,000, right?
Yeah.
So is that like a 4 flat or 2 flat?
So
duplex?
it would be a duplex mostly, maybe a triplex, but usually if it's a 4-unit, it would be closer to the 150 or 200.
Okay, that definitely sounds like a great place for investors to start with. And now, do you do property management, or does your office do property management? So if somebody wanted to invest there, they could depend on you in the long term?
Yeah, so we don't do property management, but I have a great recommendation for that kind of thing.
Okay.
And yeah, if you need a handyman, I know a guy, so if you didn't want to go the property management route, I've got people to hook you up with to get you through that. The nice thing about Stark County and Canton area is they really aren't too overly involved with what you're doing. So I feel like I hear that a lot of places that like, zoning and all this kind of stuff. They definitely have their building inspections that they do if you have a multifamily, but they're not really overly crazy. I mean, I feel like everybody kind of wants to just lay low. So if you just do what they recommend, they're kind of like hands off about it.
Well, that's great as long as they don't, they're not trying to get in the way of business.
Yeah.
Then business can operate and they can do things.
Right.
So especially in the Canton area, do you see a lot of short-term rentals, or is mostly things like long-term rentals?
I think short-term is starting to become a bigger thing with the Hall of Fame. It's a big long-term rental market right now, like lots of duplexes, lots of rentals in the downtown Canton area. But that's starting to change with, them trying to create that atmosphere in the Hall of Fame area for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So who are you seeing typically moving to the area? What's drawing people there?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest feeder markets for us would be Florida and New York are like the top two, I would say.
Florida and New York.
Yeah,
That doesn't make sense. Most of the
yeah,
people from New York are moving to Florida.
yeah,
I don't know anybody's leaving Florida.
right, right. You know what's funny is we have a lot of people actually come from Florida that miss the Four Seasons, strangely enough.
Okay, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, they like can't stand the heat, and Ohio is, low cost of living, and it's, I mean, I think it's actually it's a decent place to be. I know we get a lot of we get a lot of heck in Ohio, but but I love it here. So yeah, and then New York, I think with New York, it's only like 5 hours, certain parts of New York. So a lot of investors from New York like spaces here because they could get here in a weekend and look at it or take care of it or whatever they have to do and then go back to New York. So I have a lot of people from New York. California is a big one too.
Okay, so when you talk about New York, are you really meaning like upstate New York, or are you talking about New York, New Yorkers?
Like New York City, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Like people that are paying like $5,000 a month in rent and see a property here that you can buy for 50,000, like they just can't believe it. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
every market's different, and there's a reason why they're paying $5,000 a month in
Mhm.
rent in
Yeah.
the city versus what you can buy. Are you still there?
Oops. Oh, did I lose my audio?
It's a little off, but
That's
we
fine.
can catch up.
Here, let me just do this real fast so that doesn't happen again.
All right.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
All right. So the people from New York, there's a reason why they're paying $5,000 a month there versus what you can buy for 50 or more,
Mhm.
in Ohio, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's part of the whole real estate thing of location, location, location,
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were moving closer to Canton where things are building, I mean, things are worth a lot more there. And
Yeah.
same in Akron and Cleveland.
Right. There's a lot of variety of like I would say, like the Hall of Fame, it's very like city. And then you can go 10 minutes and be in a township that's more spread out. So it's just very diverse, I think. Like if you could be there's a lot of different townships within Canton and they're all so different from each other that if you wanted to be in a specific area, you have a lot of different options to choose from. So there's a lot of different school districts right in Canton, so that makes it nice too.
Now, being rural, there's a lot of agriculture there.
Yeah, where we are at in Alliance, there is a lot of agriculture. There's a lot of open land. There's a lot of homes sitting on, 5 or 10 acres. Yeah, there is a lot of agriculture the further you go east from the Canton area,
Okay.
and even actually south of Canton. It's there's like Amish country south of
Yep.
Canton.
Okay.
So if you wanted to come into town and check out the Hall of Fame and then also hit up some wineries, there's a big Amish area with lots of wineries and fresh baked food and all that kind of stuff. So if that's something you wanted, that's a touristy area as well.
Okay. So south of Canton.
Yeah, that would be probably about 30 minutes south of Canton.
Okay. All right. And then so the agriculture, is it mostly, farm, like growing things like corn, or are we talking more like, dairy?
Both actually. I would say a steady mix of both. Like lots of corn and um lots of cattle, dairy. Not a lot of like horse farms and things like that, but yeah, definitely like dairy, cattle and corn. Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So that's another draw for people that are interested in maybe getting into agriculture and being a
Mhm. Yeah.
farmer, or, so that's another venue.
Yeah, we have
Um,
people that like might want to. I have people all the time that say they want to start a hobby farm. So they want to get out of like Canton City. They want to get some acreage. They can move 15 minutes from where they're at and have that. So, uh,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of good options.
Okay. And so for anybody that's thinking about moving to the Canton, Akron area, what are the things that you know that they need to know? What do you want to tell those folks?
If you're moving to here from another state, I think it's just really important to have a thorough conversation with an agent about the process it takes to purchase here. Like just talking with agents like all over, when we meet up and at the conferences and stuff, things are just done so differently here than they
Oh,
are,
sure.
in another area, as far as inspections go, as far as your financing and all that kind of stuff. So I guess my main piece of advice would be to talk with the realtor if you're just starting to think of doing that, and they can kind of put you in the right direction and get your expectations for what you need to start that process.
So obviously we want everybody to talk to Kate.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk to a realtor. We want you to talk to Kate to start those things.
Yeah.
But so tell me, what are the things that are different? I mean, do you have basements there? Is radon a concern there?
Yeah.
And are a lot of the homes older so that lead-based paint's an issue?
Right. So yeah, actually that's a good point that you brought up. Canton City, there are a lot of old homes there. I mean, like, 100 years old, 150,
Okay.
150 years old. The McKinley Monument, like there's all that kind of history there. So I would say probably like the oldest homes there are around 1900s. So yeah, and they do pretty much all have basements. I mean, you find
Oh, good.
yeah, you find some newer builds with one level, or if it's in a certain area that, gets swampy or whatever it is, they might not have a basement. But yeah, you're dealing with like older basements, sometimes older wiring. So it's really important to get an inspection because a lot of that stuff can be, out of code. But
Sure.
there's a lot of history with those houses, the woodwork and all that kind of stuff. So if you appreciate that kind of thing, definitely go for it. Just make sure you get it inspected and make sure you're not having any safety concerns.
Yeah, and know what rehab projects you're willing to tackle over the next couple of years, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to finish a basement here. Most of the time. I mean, if you find a newer home, 1950s or newer, for sure. But if you're buying in like the heart of Canton where they're 1900, it's just storage, So, but yeah, as far as radon, it's kind of all over the place. Other concerns like termites. I don't know. Do you guys test for termites in Chicago?
Only with VA loans because we don't have a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay. So termite tests are a big thing here. Because we get the damp seasons and stuff like that. So obviously termites are drawn to, like cold wood that's wet. So termite tests are a big deal, and they're not very expensive. They're like $60. So that's a big, yeah. So you get that tested, you could find out that they are like all throughout the foundation or whatever. So, yeah. So I would say the radon goes 50-50, whether it passes or fails. Is there a fail rate like number for Chicago?
So we tell people that 51% of the homes in Northern Illinois have high radon, right? So it's prevalent here. It sounds like it's pretty prevalent where you are too.
Yeah.
You have 50-50 thing. One of the things I do is I tell people, look or drive around the neighborhood, and once you know what a radon mitigation system looks like, you can see them. And if one of the neighbors has one, chances are you might have to get one.
Right. And that's actually so different here because you could literally have a neighbor with a radon rating of 15 and yours is a 2. Like it is, I think the soil here is like just so different, like everywhere,
Yeah. Well, it's all what's in the ground.
Yeah.
And this where I'm at, was a lot of agriculture at one point. There's still a good amount of agriculture here. So it really just depends on what people were doing with the land before they built the subdivisions.
Yeah, right, for sure. Yeah. And it really I mean, you could even, as I'm sure you could even have a radon system and it still fails. So
we haven't seen that. I mean, that's what the radon system is supposed to do.
Yeah. We've had them fail, and then sometimes there's a fan broken or whatever it is, but we've had that happen before. So I would say that it has a radon system here to still get it tested.
Sure. I mean, you just have to make sure that the fan's working, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to you don't know because it's colorless and it's odorless. So unless you test, you really won't know what's happening.
Right.
But if you have a system and it's working, it should be working the right way.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys deal with well and septic systems a lot out there.
Occasionally.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
Yeah, we have. So where our office is at in Alliance, a lot more than the Canton area.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a point of sale requirement for septic systems to be tested. I would say that they're about 50-50 pass or fail rate. So basically, if it's an older system from like the 60s, it's going to need to be upgraded, and
Sure.
that costs 20 to 25,000. I mean, that it could cost
Oh yeah.
1,000. Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah. It just depends on the system, and that's definitely something that a seller needs to take into consideration
yeah.
as they're getting ready to sell. But buyers beware. You don't want to buy into that. Not a lot of people understand well and septic, and
Yeah.
so that can scare off a lot of people.
Right, definitely. That's something to talk about too. I have a well and septic. I've always grown up on a well and septic, and what you think about the cost being scary, like, oh, a new system is this, but you're not paying a water and sewer bill. Over time, I don't know if it always ends up, equaling the same, but it's maintenance one way or another. So,
Yeah, I mean, you're not paying water and sewer bill, but you have to maintain good drinking water. A lot of people don't think about testing their water on a regular basis, and if they're on well and septic, they should.
yeah.
Otherwise, you test it when everybody starts getting sick for no reason.
Right, exactly. And then you've got E. coli and bacteria and whatever else in the well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the well test is not a point of sale requirement here.
Really?
Yeah, in Stark County, in Portage County and Summit County, which are a little bit north of me, but I service those counties as well. They are a point of sale. So that's one thing to make sure of too, is that if you have the option, you should still do it, even if it's not required, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if the seller's the seller's required to do a well and septic test.
Yeah.
And as long as everything is fine, our home inspectors, sometimes they think that the septic test isn't really a good test because they're just looking at it. They're not necessarily doing a lot of stuff. But if the system is maintained well, it's pumped out, every couple of years, then it works fine. But they'll be able to tell if it's deteriorating just by looking at it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's and the tests aren't expensive here. They're like $400 total for the well and septic. So definitely good to do that due diligence for that. So
yeah, well, that's about the right topic, right?
Yeah.
Price. So, and it's a lifetime investment, and you're buying your property, so you want to make sure that the status of the property before you buy it. Otherwise, you could get a large expense that you weren't counting on.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be dealing with that after the fact. So,
right.
And I don't think your realtor does either. So
no, not at all.
So
we've got people coming from New York, Florida, California, and what's bringing them to the Akron, Canton, Ohio area?
Yeah, so I think just like low property values is a really big draw for people, and low taxes, low cost of living. I think and still being close to fun things to do for the most part. There's not a lot, but there's still nightlife here. There's still stuff to do. Not as the biggest city close by would be Cleveland, which is about 45 minutes to an hour from where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of low cost of living is, I think, the biggest draw here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. A pretty good cost of living. It's more relaxed life, and you're still an hour away from Cleveland, which is one of the main cities.
Yeah,
and all the sports teams that go along with that.
Yep. So.
And of course, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of the best Hall of Fames.
I always forget about that one. See, I told you, when you live so close by, you kind of forget your like local things. So yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah.
So now, how long have you been an agent?
7 years.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom owns our company, and she's been licensed for 30. So.
Okay. So you've been doing it a while. You've got a good, solid foundation. You obviously passed the 5-year mark, where most agents don't make it.
Yeah, right. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and you work with your mom, so you got a great
Yep.
family business, and you're obviously in a small town. You're probably killing it in that small town.
Yeah, we try to. Yeah, we do pretty good out here. So,
Awesome.
the key is to getting to know people, and it's not that hard to do when you live in a small town. So,
Yeah, no, you don't have much of a choice, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're gonna run into everybody at some point. So,
yeah. So you got to maintain a great reputation in a small town.
yeah, for sure.
So you've been in business that long. That's obviously what you've got, and now you're starting to grow outside that small town. We met at a couple of gatherings, and some of the best agents across the country, and
Yeah.
that's how you get better, because the people in towns don't do that,
Yes, for sure, for sure.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So as we wrap up, really appreciate your time. What else? Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that people should know about the area?
We covered a lot so far. I think just don't discount it. It's like we get a lot of flack, which I don't blame it most of the time. We have weird things that go on here. Like now we have a train derailment. Like what is going on? But I think that what the compliment we get from people here is that everyone's pretty friendly. Honestly, I mean, it's
So everybody friendly.
yeah, I would say. I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I think so. I mean, but no, honestly, I think it's a nice place to live. I've lived here all my life and I've traveled a lot, and I've always enjoyed coming back to this area. So yeah.
Yeah. So you know, uh, like Akron, Canton, Allegiance, people are pretty friendly in Ohio. It's a great place, and it's only an hour from Cleveland.
Yep. In Amish country and Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all that stuff is right there. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, Kate, I really do appreciate you taking the time to tell us all about your area. For anybody who's thinking about making a move to Cleveland, whether you're, coming here from Illinois, or somebody who's thinking about investing in the area from New York, or somebody who wants to get back to seeing some snow and you're just tired of beautiful weather every day in Florida and California,
Yeah, right.
come on out to Cleveland. Uh, Kate's your agent. Her number's down below. And if you have any questions, give her a call. And if that doesn't work, give me a call and I'll get you reconnected with Kate, because she's the one that I want to work with in the Akron, Canton, Ohio area.
Thank you so much, James, for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, Kate, thanks a lot. And again, thanks so much for joining me. And thanks for everybody who took a chance and watched this little interview. Kate's fantastic. And I can't wait for you guys to meet her when you go into Ohio.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you soon.
All right.
Have a great day, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much.